Reclaiming Catholic Intimacy, formerly Charting Toward Intimacy, covers mature topics. Listener discretion is advised.
Why should we even care to try to improve our sex lives? Things are bad. Things feel hopeless. Why does it even matter if we experience pleasure in the act, or if we actually desire it, or if we even look forward to it? Like, can't we just deal with it? Can't we just go ahead and check the box and let that be okay? Welcome to Reclaiming Catholic Intimacy, the podcast for Catholic women that helps you improve your sex life, strengthen your marriage, and embrace God's design for love. My name is Ellen Holloway, and today we are talking about why it is vital for you as a Catholic wife to work on increasing your desire for sex and increasing the pleasure that you are experiencing in sex. Sex is a way of understanding the relationship that God wants to have with us. Throughout the Bible, the image of marriage is used to explain the relationship that God has with his people, Israel. Israel is the wife, God is the husband. And sex is like a deeper image of this relationship. Sex is a deeper image of this relationship. See, what happens in sex is that the husband gives the initial gift. The husband's body gives itself as a physical self-gift. The husband's penis enters into the woman's vagina. There is a physical gift of self. And then there is actually a gift that is expressed from the man that enters into the woman, the semen. There is this physical exchange of a gift within the act of sex. And the woman acts in this role of receptivity. And in her receptivity, she becomes a full gift. So the woman receives the man into her body, and in receiving becomes a full gift of self to her husband. And then her husband receives that gift of the wife, and in receiving that gift becomes an even greater gift of self to his wife. And basically we have this kind of spiral of an ever deepening love, ever deepening self-gift, which is absolutely beautiful. Now, if we look at the relationship that God wants to have with us, the important thing when I explain this concept is that we are never imposing our human understanding on God. God is not sexual. God does not desire a sexual relationship with us. God gives us sex to understand certain elements of deeper spiritual truths. Okay, so it's just really, really important to understand. We are not imposing our humanity on God. We're allowing a human experience to teach us about God. God wants to have this ever deepening relationship of total self-gift with us. What happened on the cross? Jesus gave himself as a full and total self-gift to us. What happens when we go to Mass? We receive the gift of Jesus's body into our body. We ingest the Eucharist. We are receiving him as a full self-gift. He's giving himself as a full self-gift. We are receiving him. In receiving Jesus in the Eucharist, we are becoming a gift to him. In receiving Jesus in the Eucharist, in ingesting Jesus into us, we are becoming a gift of self to Jesus, right? Because when we approach the altar, we are approaching it, giving ourselves, giving everything that we have to Jesus and asking him to sanctify us, asking him to hallow us, right? And so Jesus then receives that gift of ourselves. And in receiving that gift, he becomes an even more total self-gift. And then we receive that and become even more of a self-gift to God, right? And then we have this ever expanding, ever deepening, unifying relationship of total self-gift. At least that's what we're called to, right? Let's keep striving toward that, right? So a beautiful marital union where both spouses are coming together as a total self-gift, freely, faithfully, then we are imaging, and it's helping us understand the relationship that Jesus wants to have with us. It's also helping us practice that relationship. When we practice becoming a self-gift to our husband, we are able to practice becoming a self-gift to Jesus. So it's a really fantastic opportunity to practice these difficult things of giving ourselves as a self-gift. In some ways, it is easier to give ourselves as a total self-gift to Jesus because we know it's going to be received perfectly. But in other ways, it's harder to give ourselves as a total self-gift to Jesus because he's not standing right in front of us. There's this spiritual element that we don't really fully comprehend. And where is he? And what exactly does that mean to give ourselves as a total self-gift? Right? So the marital act in which we have clear definitions of what it means to give yourself as a total self-gift, we're talking about sex. That is coming to the act freely, faithfully, totally giving ourselves to the other person, allowing the other person our body. We're able to practice that element of giving ourselves as a total self-gift. So sex is wildly important, and it's holy, and it's good, and it's incredible. And therefore, in many ways, and I kind of hate to use this word because it can have a bad connotation, but in a certain sense, it is our duty to improve upon that act. It is our duty to love. When you got married, you agreed to love. I say this all the time on the podcast that you are never required to have sex. There is no obligation to have sex. Any kind of language around an obligation to have sex is actually a bad translation and a misrepresentation of St. Paul's words in his letter to the Corinthians, in his letter to the Galatians, as well as his letter to the Ephesians. It's like taking some of these things out of context, misunderstanding them, and then also some mistranslations, because words mean different things in different languages. And we have to recognize that when we're reading the Bible. You have no obligation to have sex, but you do have an obligation to love. You are required to love. That is exactly what you promised. And a way in which we express that love is sex. In everything that I just explained, right? In this free and total gift of self. That's how we express love, is giving of ourselves as a total self-gift. That is what Jesus did for us on the cross. He expressed total love to us by giving himself up for us on the cross. He gives us the gift of his body. We receive the gift of his body on a weekly or more often basis. Amazing. That's so cool. So, if sex is the act through which we can practice loving more perfectly, then it follows that we should be desiring to increase our enjoyment, our experience of that act. This is why this podcast exists. It's because when I was first married, sex was horrible. I would have happily gone the rest of my marriage without having sex after trying it a couple of times. 6 months into our marriage, we were at rock bottom. Actually, it was about a month into our marriage, we were at rock bottom. 6 months in, I was questioning whether we had even made the right decision to get married. It was horrible. And I didn't want anything to do with sex. I was repulsed by my husband's desire for it. I thought it was weird and dirty. I thought the only good reason to have sex would be to make a baby. And then after that, like, maybe, I guess if I wanted to be like nice to my husband, I'd like give him sex. Yeah, sure. I had no idea how hallowing the act of sex is. I had no comprehension of it. And by the grace of God, I was introduced to the truth of what sex is and how sex allows us to not only grow closer to our husband, but to grow closer to God and to understand the relationship that God wants to have with us. Sex teaches us how to pray in a certain sense, right? It teaches us how to be in relationship with God. It is this physical, bodily, carnal representation and experience of love, of total self-gift, which is what God asks of us. He asks love of us. He asks a total self-gift of us, right? So it's this opportunity to practice total self-gift with another human being so that we can give ourselves as total self-gift to God. That's so cool. And I had no understanding of that. And that's why I have this podcast. That's why I do what I do, is so that you can understand that too, so that you can allow yourself to enter into the beauty of this act, so that you can recognize that seeking out pleasure is not bad, that seeking out pleasure is actually a way of engaging in the act more and practicing loving more, that increasing your desire for it is not a selfish thing to do. That is something that is actually teaching us how to increase our own desire for God. Starting today, the next round of Want It and Enjoy It is open for enrollment. And I want you to be there. This is my 8-week group coaching program for Catholic wives who want to increase their desire for sex and increase their enjoyment of the act. This is your opportunity to roll up your sleeves, give it your all for 8 weeks, and experience the depth and the beauty and the holiness and the loveliness and the pleasure that is available to you in this act, in this good, holy, spiritual act. That in a certain sense, it is our duty to work to improve that act. Because that act is what allows us to practice giving ourselves as full gift to Jesus, giving ourselves as full gift to God. This is the act that God gave us to do that and to understand that relationship with Him. So I want to invite you to join the next round. This is your opportunity. Imagine 2 months from now, enjoying the act, looking forward to it, not having any guilt or shame around it, being able to talk to your husband without it becoming a blow-up argument, being confident in the act itself, being confident in the things that actually turn you on and get you excited for sex, being confident in experiencing pleasure. Imagine what it would be like if that was you at the end of September. That's so soon from now. All I ask of you is 8 weeks. 8 weeks of dedicated commitment. 8 weeks of group coaching. 8 weeks of learning and implementing and trying, maybe failing a little bit, but trying again. 8 weeks of renewing our mind and understanding that the negative thoughts that we have about sex are actually what are causing our negative experience of sex. 8 weeks of just diving into the goodness and the beauty of sex. This is your invitation. You can head to reclaimingcatholicintimacy.com/want-and-enjoy, or the link is in the show notes. Enrollment is open through July 31st. This is going to be the best round ever. There are some new things that I've added in for this round. Very excited about. You can read all about those on the website page. I have an episode coming out in a couple of days that's going to give you all the details on the program. But if you know right now that this is the program for you, that this is the time, this is the opportunity, that you are ready to stop avoiding sex and actually enjoy it, then I want you to sign up right now. This is your opportunity. reclaimingcatholicintimacy.com/want-and-enjoy. Hey, if you're a Catholic wife who wants to increase your desire for sex and actually experience pleasure in the act, I want to invite you to join the next round of Want It and Enjoy It, where you're going to learn how to cultivate desire, learn the skill of orgasm, and learn how to think differently about sex so that you can look forward to sex and actually enjoy it. Just head to reclaimingcatholicintimacy.com/want-and-enjoy or click the link in the show notes.